And that means it's time for Michael Parkhurst to come and hang out with us. What's up, Cap?
What's up, John? Thanks for playing that music just long enough for me to figure out the tangled headphone mess that I had.
Hey, brother, that's what we're here for. You know me as being a human filibuster. I'm always good for those kinds of things. It's always fun. First question that I have for you, sir, has to do with the mogul in training that you are. You get the weekend. You get this weekend to watch everybody else in USL Championship. You are a week away. That by the time that you will have circled back and caught up with us, you will have had your home opener, your franchise kickoff, the first match ever in club history for Rhode Island FC, 4 o'clock next Saturday afternoon on the campus of Bryant University for those that wish to go and catch up with New Mexico United taking on Rhode Island FC. Are you, sir, nervous as we showcase the RIFC scarf here in the office? How nervous as a mogul are you a week away from the grand reveal?
Not too nervous. I can't really control anything that's going on over there. And so it's kind of out of my hands. Honestly, if I was nervous, I'm more nervous about off the field and just making sure things go well and fans having a good experience and a good time. And you never know at the college campus how things are going to go. And so yeah, just logistically hoping that everyone really enjoys their time, because Brett Johnson, our majority owner, he was obviously with Phoenix for a while, and he was talking about his experience for our home opener when they opened up their new stadium, and he said it was an absolute disaster, where like they were kicking off and half the stadium wasn't in the stadium yet, and it was just a really difficult time getting everyone parked and getting in the gates. And he said it was a real struggle. So we're trying to learn from those experiences and make sure everybody has a good time.
I mean, what have you been able to learn about the behind the scenes stuff? I imagine it's a lot, but what's it been like for you as part of the hierarchy, part of the ownership group? What's it been like for you to learn about this side, the other side of things? You know about on the field, but what's it been like for you this entire process to learn about stuff off the field, and now you're a week away from the grand reveal?
Yeah, just how much work goes into it, all the different facets and groups that are just doing work behind the scenes, where you as a player, you're just focused on playing and the game and New Mexico and getting a good result. And yeah, people are going to show up, and that's just what happens. And but how do you get those people in the stadium and selling the tickets and then putting on a good experience, and what goes on before the game and at halftime, and the concessions and all this stuff. And there's just so much going on to even just put on the first game, and you've got dignitaries coming in, and like how do you take care of the mayor of this town and that town, and the fire chief and the police chief, and it's just like, oh my God, the politics involved, and you're like, oh my, it's crazy.
What have I gotten myself into? I could see you trying to find a closet to just close the door, or close the door to your office. It's like, I need 10 minutes of silence.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Oh man.
But I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a great day.
So are you going? Are you going to stay at home?
Yeah, I'm going.
Okay. And are they going to have like the big pair of scissors and the ribbon cutting and everything? It's like, and we welcome everyone, the serpentina and the confetti cannons. I mean, is this part of it too?
No, I don't think so. But I think there are some pre-game festivities that'll be enjoyable for everybody and make it a big deal. But no ribbon cutting.
You're gonna get flyover. You're gonna get like a stealth bomber to go over there at Bryant.
There's been talks. I mean, not a stealth bomber, maybe a paper airplane. But
yeah, so you launch it from the owner's box. You sit there and
airplane. I've got the little remote control on the sideline. Just.
I mean, it's going to be an absolute blast, and obviously next Saturday we're going to keep an eye on it with everything going on. And it's been fun to hear your stories about how this is going from ground zero and beyond ground zero to an idea on paper to now being a week away from the grand reveal as an expansion franchise in USL Championship. It's been fun to hear these kinds of things. Different kind of home opener coming up for Atlanta United tomorrow, and it's going to be against New England, two teams that you might remember or have some history with, or just might remember some experiences. When it comes to home openers here, what are some of your favorite memories of home openers with your time with Atlanta United and what the whole vibe was like then?
Well, definitely the most memorable one was the first one, without a doubt. Just a little bit of unknown of what it would be like, the crowd, and just I remember hearing about hey, give them time to figure out the chants and get everybody organized and all this stuff. So there was a lot of unknown going into that game. And honestly, I was unsure if we were going to get our asses kicked by Red Bulls or
Really?
if we were going to be okay. So yeah, but that was an amazing night. And honestly, I'm trying to think of the home opener in 2018 because I know that we started off with a butt whooping out in Houston.
I thought you blacked that moment out. It doesn't exist anymore.
So I can't even remember what the home opener was for 2018, and I remember the home opener for 2019 because we won a championship, and I feel like there was a lot of booing after the game for our home opener of 2019. Yeah, so I remember that game. Things weren't in a good place for the home opener.
So yeah, Ricky says it was DC in 2018 and Cincy in 2019.
Yeah, I remember Cincy. I don't even remember the DC game.
3-1 in 2018, according to contributor Nile, over DC, and then a draw apparently with Cincy in 2019. Folks with better memories are just flooding us.
I knew that Cincy was a draw because we had just lost to Monterey away. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's all these flashbacks in here this morning. When it comes to your mentoring and when it comes to first impressions, do you get to have the conversations with your mentees about not just first impressions on the field, but first impressions off the field? The etiquette things that we all learned when we were growing up about shaking hands, eye contact, all of those kinds of things, the yes or no, sir, all of the manners and things like that. Do you get to deal with these conversations about first impressions on and off the field at all?
Absolutely. Because, a lot of the kids that we talk to are going to college showcases, or they're going to a camp for college, or, I don't know, a tryout even, for high school or whatever. And, we talk about coaches are looking for not only good players, but they're looking for good people, right? Nobody wants to have a bunch of guys on the team or ladies on the team that are going to be a pain in the butt to work with. And so you've absolutely got a chance to impress off the field. And so much of that is within your control and has nothing to do with how good you kick a soccer ball or anything like that. So we absolutely talk about the importance of that and how important it is.
When it comes to these conversations, I mean, I imagine that probably 99.9% of the time, those athletes that you are with they're on the same page with you. They get it. There's, we understand we're trying to further our lives, our careers, what have you. Have you had to change any mentee attitudes in these conversations? Did some of them come in and almost act like Mario Balotelli, and it's like, hey, this is me, take it or leave it kind of a thing? And did you have to change attitudes with any mentees, or is everybody on the same page coming in?
No, not everybody's on the same page. That would be too easy, John. No, I think we're all on different pages. I think there's some that don't understand how important that is or how big of an impact that can have, whether they are on that path or not on that path. And so that's important. But then also there's just some that need a little bit of an attitude adjustment to make sure that that doesn't take away from their soccer skills, right? Maybe it's not going to be an outlier as far as like, hey, that's going to be your go-to, like, hey, this is a great player or a great person rather. But if you're a great player, let's make sure that the attitude doesn't take away from that, right? So that's important because we've had some of those as well.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's the reason that I ask is this question, because when you have those that may not understand the full picture and you're starting to lay the evidence out for them and they finally understand, oh, okay, there's something larger at play here, and this can help me out not just when I'm an athlete, but after my athletic career is over, when I'm out there in the real world, building buildings or, doing whatever with the rest of my life, that this isn't just something that is meant for sports. It is meant for the remainder of your life, and it will help you out in all other aspects when your playing days are through. If that's 16, 22, 24, or 30, this is something that contributes to a larger picture here.
Absolutely. And yeah, of course, most of the players that we speak with aren't going to be professionals, right? So how are they using these skills to better themselves for the future? I was literally just talking with a mentee who's playing over in Spain right now, and I was telling him, hey, take this opportunity to learn Spanish. Please get fluent while you're over there. So because when we're hiring for Rhode Island, like, we want bilingual people in our building, right? It's so important. And it can separate yourself. Obviously, I wish I had spoke Spanish when I was playing with Atlanta United, right? It would have been so helpful. So it's a big regret of mine. So whether you play soccer or you don't, right? Learn Spanish. It'll set yourself apart. So that's a little off the field thing as well, but there's so many lessons for sure.
Yeah, and halftime with Michael Parkhurst and the Freddie Free Kick and our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring. And, because the world isn't as insular as it might have been back in the 1790s when I was growing up. I mean, it literally is. You turn and you're surrounded by a bunch of different nationalities and languages. And the more that we learn about each other, I think obviously the better off I think we all can be, because then we get that additional perspective of where someone's coming from. It's almost like, if you want to call it an interactive defensive driving course for conversation and for growth. It's like, okay, I understand where this person's coming from now. Oh, I get that now because of this. And so you get to add the context of all of the growth from all the different places around the planet where you're going to be interacting with folks. Like you said with Rhode Island FC, being bilingual, being trilingual or multilingual is going to help you out in understanding where these folks are coming from. And I don't know I don't know if this is a generational thing or not, but I don't know where the generations are about willingness to understand others and be accepting in these conversations. When you interact, when it comes to, are there generational disconnects, or do the younger athletes and student athletes and individuals get it? Do they understand the idea of the three-dimensional approach and understanding where folks come from? Older people, what's the generational rundown from your interaction?
I think so. Sometimes it's difficult to understand, right? Are they just nodding their head and saying yes, and or they understand it but don't believe it? So I don't know. But I think that most of the kids are kind of open and understand, like, hey, that whether I do or don't continue to play at a higher level, like, I can still take a lot of these skills and see how it relates to things off the field as well.
If you weren't who you are, and you, after your time at Wake Forest, it's like, okay, I'm hanging up my boots, I'm done. I had a great career up through college. I've got to go focus on other things. If you weren't a professional footballer, what do you think you would have been growing up? Growing older. I'll say growing older, not growing up, because if we grow up, we're in trouble. If you'd hung up your boots after college, what do you think you would have done otherwise?
It's a good question, John, and I've been asked before, and I don't know. I was very focused on on one thing. And so, you know, some of the things I tell my mentees are like, hey, this is what I did, but this is what I tell my mentees to do in this situation. And sometimes it's not the same. So I don't know. I was mildly interested in like how the body works and kind of like the PT aspect of things. So I probably, that's what I had wanted to study in college, but that wasn't possible in order for me to leave college early and still graduate from Wake. There's too many labs and things that I needed to be in person.
I can relate there, brother, right there.
So, yeah, that didn't work out for me. But I think probably in that sphere.
Okay. When it comes to taking care of their bodies and understanding what they need to do to navigate the day in and day out, do your mentees, do they get it? Do they still want to run 100,000 miles an hour every single day and not have a, just like, we'll pay the piper later? When it comes to them and their navigating of how they get through their days and get through their competitions and are ready, do they understand the idea of dialing it back like you did as a pro, or is it still just bar the door and I'm going to run until I can't run anymore?
There's always going to be kids all over that spectrum,
right?
No doubt about it. But we do say, hey, there's time to get away from the game as well, and take it easy a little bit.
What? Come on. It's all about being a diehard. You've got to be there. It's like you've got to be there 100% of the time, 370 days out of the year. Come on now. What is this rest thing and getting away from things and closing closet doors that you're talking about here? We can't have that.
Yeah, exactly. None of that.
None of that. I'm just waiting for the finger wag, the index finger to come and point something like you can't do those kinds of things. But but once again, I think it's a generational disconnect that we have at times. It's like when we were growing up, literally, it's like the scene in Breakfast Club where Emilio Estevez and they're all sitting around and they're doing the discussion about their parents, late in the movie, where Emilio Estevez is talking about his dad and he goes, Andrew, your attitude, that kind of, we've seen those parents. We know those parents. And I don't know in sheer numbers if the parents that we knew back then are the same parents that we have now. That's why I was kind of asking, do folks understand the idea of disconnecting and unplugging and not doing things 370 days out of the year?
No, it's probably worse now than it was.
Really?
I think so.
Huh.
Yeah, because when I was growing up, it was we played different sports in each season. There was no special trainers and individualized training, and there's just so much more opportunity now for the extra training, which is great, and that's why we see these younger kids turning pro at 15, and just the level of play. Mm-hmm. From these 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds is so much higher than it was. But there's a cost to that as well.
When it comes to, so you mentioned being pro at 15, and the first name that popped into my head was Freddie Adu. And I wonder at times, do we push too quickly? Because you'll see Freddie Adu's out there and they'll be amazing, and you wonder if the full package is there, both the physical, the mental, the emotional, all of that. If you wonder that if all of that is there, and I know that it's probably a case-by-case basis, but you have these cautionary tales. Any idea from your mind when too young is too young to be a professional athlete? Would you set a bar at, say, like, look, maybe at the end of high school, maybe when you're 18, something like that? Or, is it legitimately one of these where you have to look at the full dossier of how they came through, and it's like, okay, 13, 14, 15, they were doing these kinds of things. Okay, they're maturing. They're doing okay. So by the time that they become a pro, 16 or so, they're ready for that kind of a thing? It seems like it's a bit of a dodgy thing to have to navigate. But there's always a cautionary tale, and I think that probably I recoil when I hear 15-year-old pro or 16-year-old pro just because you worry about that individual.
Yeah, it is tough. I don't think that there should be a rule, like a set thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Freddie's experience, and I don't know if you got a chance to listen to that podcast that I think the late Grant Wall did with Freddie, and that was fantastic. And I obviously was in MLS at that time and didn't know quite the experience and the pressure and the eyeballs and all this stuff that he had on him, which was unreal. I don't think many 15-year-olds. I mean, I see them. What's crazy is, you see a team sign a 16-year-old and you're like, that's just another team signing a 16-year-old or a 15-year-old. And you're like, it doesn't even register that, like, a wow.
Yeah.
And so in one essence, I guess that's okay because there's not a super amount of pressure on these. Freddie Adu is meant to come in and be a star at 14 or 15. These kids are just, training essentially. I don't know how many of these players are even getting first team minutes. So just training essentially with the first team, which is a valuable experience, right? But it also, like, there's a lot of things to consider. Like we almost signed a young player, and there's a lot to consider. Like, who are they living with, and what happens when they're on the road, and do they have their own room? Are they with another player? And like, what happens when the other guys go out for a drink? And there's just so much that goes into it. And because you don't want, these kids to grow up that fast, but there's also a maturation thing and like a fatherly, like, family type thing that you have to look after these guys too. Yeah. So the club really needs to be set up in a good spot to really support these players.
Did the club sign that young player, or did, because of everything that you were just talking about, they're like, yeah, we probably, don't have the resources at the moment or can devote the resources to make sure that is that insular element with that player, that we take care of that player in those three dimensions?
No, we didn't sign the player, and it wasn't because of that. It just didn't work out. He chose a different option. But we will eventually, and so at least we're having these conversations and understanding of, hey, if we do sign a player that's, under 18, or even if it's significantly younger, making sure that we've got a good environment, a safe environment for, this player, because, off the field matters. It really does. Like, you can't expect to send a 15-year-old home to an empty apartment at 2:00 in the afternoon every day and say, hey, I'll see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. That's crazy.
It is. Rapid fire before we go, because I know that you've got menteeing and moguling to do here. Dell down in Charleston wants to know if you keep in touch with some of your former Atlanta United teammates besides Greg Garza.
Oh, yeah. Yep. We've got some different group text messages going on. So Alec Can and Brad, Jeff, I'm going to stay with Julian in a couple weeks, going down there to Miami. Darlington's up here in Columbus, so we have lunch every now and then. Justin Muram, there's a bunch of guys.
Okay. And then since today is, and Abby did fantastic work in letting us know that today's National Hash Brown Day.
Oh, I thought you were going to go a little more serious. I think, isn't today National Women's Day or National?
It is absolutely. It's International Women's Day. That is
International Women's Day.
Yes.
Hash Brown Day. Oh, yes.
All right.
So I love hash browns.
I was going to say, how do you like your hash browns, sir?
Crispy.
Okay.
And with I don't like Southern stuff. So, like, as far as, like, I don't want cream in it, or, I want them dry. I don't want them crispy. I throw some ketchup on there.
Okay. Because traditionally for me, I was talking about, like, when you go to Waffle House, scattered, smothered, covered, chunked, and topped, which is basically cheese, ham, chili, onions. And unless I'm really not hungry, and then I'll get a larger order, but then I'll just have them plain. If they're that right level of crispy, but they're not too crisp, then I can go completely and totally plain when it comes to an order of hash browns, and have 2 grilled cheese sandwiches with it, and I'm cool.
Plain Jane over here.
Yeah, right there with you. Folks, Dell also wants to know, and David, If he's in Tampa for the Rowdies Rhode Island game, is there a section for the road supporters where they can create chaos as well? Do you know?
I love it. I don't know, honestly. I would assume so, but I don't know. That's one of the things that I haven't thought about yet, actually.
See, you hang out here and you get all of these completely and totally random questions having to do with being a mogul. Parzival asks, Lorenowitz actually sends texts and doesn't send carrier pigeons?
Believe it or not, he can operate a telephono.
Okay.
Yep. So he does send a text message every now and then.
Wow,
and as you would imagine, always some dry humor in there.
No. Big Red and dry humor, that never happened. Dell also is asking, does Rhode Island have any different concessions because of the location and culture? How is Bryant University going to help you out with concessions here?
Yeah.
Do you get like, do you get some chowder, perhaps?
I don't know. It's a good question if there's going to be chowder. So the concessions at Bryant is a disaster. So we've got a bunch of food trucks that are going to be there. So yes, definitely local flavor of a variety of different food trucks. And then at the stadium, we will have for sure a lot of local flavor.
Okay. Last question.
Yeah, Doughboys.
Yes, Doughboys. Yes, Doughboys. And maybe you should just go to like the Italian restaurants on the hill and just have the food trucks come with the Italian food. Get the big plates of pasta. That'd be epic. What's going on with you and Greg and Beyond Goals these days?
What is going on? I don't know. We still speaking of some high schools, which is great. We talked to Riverside women's teams yesterday, 2 days ago. So high school season, and we've got a project that we're dipping our toes into, seeing if we can get something done in Atlanta. So hopefully we can share more with that down the road, but that would be a fun big project with the city down there. So we'll see.
Yes, absolutely. So the northeastern answer of a beignet is a doughboy, for those that do not know. So as always, my friend, thanks for coming on with us on Fridays when you can at 9:30 to talk about everything involving that particular scarf right there, Rhode Island FC scarf.
Mm-hmm.
I have the gear. It is displayed.
You see my scarf, John?
Yes, I do, sir. It made it. So the SDH scarf is now a part of the office, and that is really fun, as well as the 356-page book that was book number 6 for yours truly. It is now in his stacks as well, personalized and ready to be read when you have time to do it, which will be about the year 2027 at this point. But as always, my friend, thanks for dropping by. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe, and enjoy the opening. Next time we talk, we'll ask all about it. Be safe, my friend.
You as well. Thanks, John.